Words in papers, words in books, words on TV, words for crooks, words for comfort, words for peace, words to make the fighting cease, words to...
Welcome to the world of Wordaholics. Hello, I'm Gyles Brandreth, and this is Wordaholics, the show all about language that knows a verb is a doing word, a noun is a naming word, and a preposition can get you arrested around here. Joining me are four syntactical superstars. They are Natalie Haynes, Josh Widdicombe, Susie Dent, and Helen Keane. Our four guests are all lovers of language, so before we go any further, let's find out a bit about their particular passions. First, comedian Josh Widdicombe. As the co-host of Paralympic show The Last Leg and a former broadsheet sports reporter, what, Josh, is your favourite word or phrase from the language of sport?
It depends, obviously, on the frame of reference of the audience, how much they like sport, how precise I will be. Because I'd say the most necessary one is ball. But I think they know that. So the specific ones I like, during the Paralympics, you'd have a guide, and a guide, obviously, in a blind running race, their role was they would have to run holding the hand of the blind runner and then let them go to sprint for the end. And there was a particularly bad guide who fell over and tripped up their blind runner. But the bravest guides were the ones for the blind long jump, because they would have to stand on the edge of the sand pit and then have the person run at them. And then they'd be shouting, right a bit, left a bit, left a bit, and then they'd jump out the way and the person would try and jump in the sand pit. But I saw someone jump on a rake. So that guide no longer is in employment. But I think guide, there's some good football ones. Squeaky bum time. Do you know what that is? That's the end of the season. That's Alex Ferguson came up with that, and the ability to bounce back. They came up with a really good word for this, which is bounce back ability.
Well, you're an extraordinary person from an extraordinary world. Here once more is our classical scholar, Natalie Haynes. Natalie, you are a regular critic on Radio 4's Front Row. What are the best words to use when you want to damn something with faint praise?
Not that I would ever be so ungenerous. But if I were to be, I would obviously go to the source of all the greatest put-downs for this kind of thing, which is Nancy Mitford, who famously, when people sent her books that they had written and she didn't like, would write back with the phrase, "Good is not the word." That's pretty much unbeatable. Although I know with actors, quite often the phrase is, "Oh, you've done it again."
Next, we've got Susie Dent, veteran lexicographer, matriarch of Countdown's Dictionary Corner. Susie, we want you to confess, in everyday life, are there any words you have trouble spelling?
Yes, I have lots of blind spots. Harass, I always want to spell with two R's.
Oh, it's one, is it?
It's one R.
Two S's?
Two S's.
Are you good at embarrassment?
How often on Countdown are you having to write the word harass?
Quite often. You'd be surprised.
She writes these complaints about the people who appear with her in Dictionary Corner.
Exactly. When
Don't ask me why or who. Yes.
When I was little, I famously drew a picture of for my dad, and it was one of a little stick figure with a chef's hat on, with "My dad is the best cook ever," only I didn't quite... Oh, I don't know if I can tell this. Yes, I didn't... My writing wasn't too joined up, let's put it that way. I think that's why I became interested in spelling after that.
Well, let's
move on.
Let's move on. Thank you, Susie Dent. Thank you for coming. And finally, we welcome Helen Keane, comedian, science lover. Helen, I understand you're fascinated by robots. Are there any words you'd like to share from the language of robotics?
I really like the term wetware. That's my story. No, which it sounds like, I don't know, something that the cast of Towie would wear on the beach or something, but it's actually when you're referring to a human being, so the human nervous system and brain, and its interaction with software in a computer or hardware. So it's sort of looking forward to the time when we human beings merge with machines and create the terrifying man-machines of science fiction, like the Cybermen and Inspector Gadget and that kind of thing.
So when the wetware meets the hardware and you and the robot get it together, we soon hear the patter of tinny feet.
Slightly different cast on it, but yeah, kind of basically.
It was worth reading the Beano back in 1957. Good. Thank you for that. And time for round one now, which is our letter of the week. And what a letter we have this week. It's the one and only letter K. Yes, and here he comes. Weighing in at 100 kilograms. He's keen as ketchup, and he's anything but kindly. A back straight as a knife and limbs that kick out, always with a knowing look that says, I could knock your block off with just one knuckle. I better stop kowtowing, or he'll kick me in the knackers. Ladies and gentlemen, with knobs on, it's the letter K. Josh Widdicombe, here's a K for you. What does it mean to be of knapsack descent?
So you come from the kind of people that would wear a knapsack?
Yeah. Colonels
I don't know. Dweebs?
Dweebs?
I don't know. Who would wear a knapsack? The only knapsack I remember was on the show Nightmare, which began with a K. But that is a niche reference for this audience.
And also, it's the wrong answer. Let me tell you. Knapsack descent, it's a Victorian term, and it means being descended from soldiers on both sides of the family. Because back then, soldiers were mainly known for, for their natty holdalls.
So I kind of got it right.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, sort of. I mean,
no.
You didn't really get it right, did you? Natalie Haynes, you're K. Why would I want you to stop kayaking?
Is it because it's your go in the canoe?
Well...
Has it spelled?
Water has possibly something to do with it. Shape up or ship out. K-Y-A-C-T-I-N-G. Kayaking.
Is it... Are you pronouncing it right? Is it KY acting? Is it porn acting? Is it acting in porn?
It's actually, you were closer to it when you were at sea. In fact, to be all at sea, you're almost at home with this one. I'll tell you what it is. Kai-acting, it's actually an old Navy term. It means inappropriate jocularity or clowning during work. Probably from...
like now?
Yeah.
Like right now?
Yeah. It's probably from the Australian word chayak, meaning to tease, though others suggest it may be a corruption of skylarking. And you were thinking of kayaking, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I was thinking of kayaking.
Yeah,
yep.
which is spelt differently and is totally different. Kayaking, which as anyone who's tried it knows, is no fun whatsoever. Okay, Susie, what would you do with the king's evil?
Oh, yes, this is not very nice. What you would do is go straight to see the Queen or the King. And this is the reason why the Queen always wears gloves, because the royal touch was supposed to cure scrofula, which was a horrible disease which Samuel Johnson had, which was swelling of the glands, a bit like TB. And they just had to touch them, and apparently they'd be cured. So that's what I do. I go and see. I'm not sure our Queen would do it, but I'm sure that's why she wears gloves.
A comprehensive answer that deserves full marks. Congratulations. It's the king's evil. The king's evil, not to be confused, if I may say so, with the future king's evil, which is charging slightly too much for his Duchy original oatcakes. Full marks to Susie. And finally, Helen, here's a K for you. What would you think if I told you, Katie, bar the door?
I'd think, oh, God, it's been 2 years, Tom Cruise, stop calling me by her name. It's something bad is going to happen if you say to someone to bar the door, or...
Yeah, well, that is, broadly speaking, right. I mean, you should probably be worried, as Katie bar the door really means take precautions. There's trouble ahead.
Ah, okay. Yeah. That's what I was getting at.
And I think you really got there. No, you were getting there. You were getting there. It's an American phrase, first recorded in the 1890s, but it's thought the Katie in question comes from several centuries earlier. Anyone have any idea? Susie? No?
No.
Catherine Douglas, who in 1437 tried unsuccessfully to save the life of the Scottish King James I by barring the door to his room during an attack. Yeah. Reminds me of that old song, there may be trouble ahead, but while there's moonlight and music and love and romance, Shut that door. So, a couple of marks there for Helen. Sometimes putting two things together creates something even greater than the sum of their parts, like Morecambe and Wise, fish and chips, or sultry romantic dinner and Gyles Brandreth. This round is all about portmanteaus, those interesting words created when two others are joined together in matrimony. We'll be giving our panel a portmanteau of their own, and they'll have to figure out what it is and where it came from. It's a round we like to call heads, shoulders, portmanteaus.
Heads, shoulders,
portmanteaus,
portmanteaus, heads, shoulders,
portmanteaus,
portmanteaus, and eyes and ears and mouth and nose. Head, shoulders,
portmanteaus, portmanteaus.
Natalie, what two words do you suppose make up the portmanteau tobacco? T-O-M-A-C-C-O.
I feel like it can really only be either tobacco-flavoured tomatoes or tomato-flavoured tobacco. So
You're right on both counts. It's extraordinary.
And is it in common usage, tobacco?
Well, this is absolutely amazing. A tobacco is a hybrid plant of tomato and tobacco. It originally appeared as a joke in what television program?
The Simpsons.
The Simpsons, a bonus there to you, Josh. Absolutely. And then a fan of the show in Oregon actually managed to create it by grafting together tomato and tobacco plants, producing fruits that tested positive for nicotine. Isn't that amazing?
That is a sturdy fan. That's not the regular kind.
So is that if you're like in a pub, but you don't want to go outside to smoke? You could just get out a tomato to deal with your cravings.
A tomaco.
A tomaco,
You have to get out a tomaco, and then you would. And if you were wanting to wean yourself off the tomaco, you could do that quite simply using a vegetable patch. Actually, to be honest, I rather prefer the classier sun-dried tomaco. Okay, Susie, a portmanteau for you to break down now. What do you suppose makes up the word crunk?
Crunk. Yeah, I once got chastised by a clubber, in words, for saying that crunk was a blend. I have these conversations at clubs of crazy
This
and
is a steel
drunk.
clubber of some kind, is it? What sort of club? You go to clubs?
I used to go to clubs sometimes.
We were volunteer policewomen. What on earth would you be doing in a club?
I was talking about blends, portmanteau words, that's what I was doing. And he said it's not a blend of crazy and drunk, which is, I think, what you might say to me it is. Apparently it's past tense of crank, as in crank it up.
So this is the origin of the crank, is it?
I had
It
written
means
it,
being...
it's crazy and drunk, but I think it's the past of crank.
Which are you going to go for? You can only go for one or the other.
Okay, well, I'll have to, if it's a blend round, I'll go for a blend of crazy and drunk.
And you're right to do so. You get full marks. It's crazy and drunk. Well done. Who's crank? Okay, you get the marks there. Helen, here's one for you. Can you disassemble the portmanteau murse? M-U-R-S-E.
Murse. I guess that must be. Earth is either nurse or purse. And the M... Oh, it's going to be one of those really annoying ones. It's going to be male, because how shocking. A male nurse or a male purse. It's one of those annoying ones, because it's always kind of that thing of, oh, you have to come up with a special word because a person of one gender is doing a job that you don't expect them to be doing. And it's always things like nurse that they do that for. It's quite annoying. They don't, describe, I don't know, Mock the Week as a manal show, do they? Even if they should.
You get 2 points for getting the answer right, and a round of applause for an interesting political statement. And Helen was completely there. There are two possibilities, and I'm going to give her a point for both of them. A murse could be a male nurse, but it could also be a male purse, a murse, a man's purse. I do have a male purse myself, but just to be on the safe side, my wife keeps it in her briefcase. Knowing how you love a pun, I once did a charity run raising money for a town in Hertfordshire while dressed as a male nurse. I really was. Murse for wear. Okay. And Josh, here's a portmanteau word for you. What do you think are the constituent parts of the word volleyball?
Volleyball. I imagine is it a combination of the two greatest sports? Football and where's Wally?
Volleyball. Well, you are in the right sort of area, but...
Is it a sporting...
It is a sport. It is a sport.
sport.
It is a sport. What does it combine?
So it combines football? No?
No.
Volleyball?
I'll tell you.
Volleyball
It was invented
and
in California.
A wall.
That's correct. It is It is a sport, a combination of the words wall and volleyball, giving us volleyball. It's a sport invented in California, where else? In 1979. Basically a combination of volleyball and racquetball, where you can bounce the ball off both yourself and the wall, which I believe is also the name of a tactical system devised by Roy Hodgson. But you got there with a little help from Natalie, I think, so 2 full marks. Let's check in with the scores. In second place, this week, interestingly, just behind are Susie and Helen, our leaders at this point, Natalie and Josh. Though the English language is our main focus here on Wordaholics, we have to admit it has its limits. For example, there is no word in English for the French word tartine, meaning a single slice of bread. Although with the length of French bread, a single slice is usually enough. This round is called You Can't Say That, and it's all about other words for which there is no direct equivalent in English. Can our panelists guess what they mean? Susie, we're going to start with you first. Your word is cotisuelto, which is a Caribbean Spanish word. What does it mean, cotisuelto?
Cotisuelto. Does it mean I get very hot in bed? I am hot in bed?
No.
No.
I'll give you some options. Is it A, a very casual dresser, B, what they call the Cotswolds, the people in the Caribbean, or C, the relief that comes from a soothing of your sunburn?
I'm going to go for A.
And you're right to do so. The answer is A, it's a very casual dresser, literally, one who wears the shirt tail outside his trousers. In other words, a scruff. Helen Keane, a Welsh term for you. What do you think glas wen might mean? Glas wen, G-L-A-S, new word, W-E-N.
I think I might know half of that. Because I think glass means green or possibly it means green or blue, because there's that thing, isn't there, where some languages, the rate at which a language develops, it differentiates between green and blue, sometimes quite late in the day, and
you're
that's a
quite right.
language.
And they couldn't spell aquamarine until the 15th century. Absolutely right. So you're halfway there. You get a mark.
When?
For that.
I don't really know. When is at the end of a lot of girls' names in Welsh, isn't it? Like Lloyd.
Let me give you some alternatives. Would it be a sarcastic grin, A? B, a slanderous whisper? Or C, a type of cheese that goes particularly well with lava bread? Glas wen.
I think it's probably either the cheese or the grin.
The blue element is part of it.
Yeah.
That's the glas part. What's the wen mean? Anyone know?
Is it a sarcastic smile?
It is a sarcastic smile. You get the points for that. Congratulations. You may have been guessing. It's A. Glas wen literally means a blue smile, one that is insincere or mocking, often seen among Welsh teenagers who will give you a blue smile accompanied by the phrase, "Another Eisteddfod, excellent." Josh, your word is German and is Kummerspeck.
Speck is... I don't eat meat, but is it like it's ham?
I think
or
it's
something?
ham.
It's
yeah.
ham, I think.
Like all good vegetarians, we've had to learn all the things we can't eat on a menu.
I'm going to give you a point, and I'm going to help you too by giving you some alternatives. You're already ahead of the game. Is it A, the look of regret that appears when you realise you're down to your last beer? B, to put on weight due to comfort eating? Or C, to injure yourself due to excess head banging? It's one of those three.
Well, that ham knowledge really helped.
It did. Well, maybe it does.
Oh, comfort eating.
Ah.
Comfort-eating ham. We'll go with that. Then.
Yeah, you're right too, because the answer is B. It's a delightful term, I think, for a not-so-delightful situation. It's to put on weight due to comfort eating and literally means grief bacon. Of course, if you want to hear about real grief bacon, ask a pig. Finally, in this round, Natalie, Central American Spanish for you, achaplinarse. Achaplinarse.
Is it somebody who likes silent films, but for all the wrong reasons? That's meaning the rest of us can go, oh, he's a right chaplain arse. Oh.
Let me give you some alternatives. Is it A, the lowest, most humble job in a cathedral, B, a saucy mime, or C, to run all over the place like Charlie Chaplin?
That one. To run all over the place like Charlie Chaplin. His name is in it, that one.
It is that one. It is C. And it means, you know, to suddenly change plans. It's Central American Spanish, chaplinarse. It comes from the way Charlie Chaplin used to hesitate and then dash off in a haphazard manner, changing direction as he went. So you got that, and you get the points. Okay, as new words appear, fresh and ready to take on the world, others fall from favour and indeed use. Who here can remember such archaic terms as cispontine, fizzgig, BBC Three? This round is called New Words for Old. In it, I'll be testing our panel on their ability to work out what some of these archaic words might mean. This week's selection comes from J. Reading Ware's classic, Passing English of the Victorian Era, a dictionary of heterodox English slang and phrase. The top of every child's Christmas list in 1872. Natalie, oh, a lovely one for you, Natalie. What did Mr. Ware mean by giggle mug?
I feel like he would have had to have come forward in time to see people with a zany coffee cup, which perhaps says on it, keep calm and drink coffee. And the rest of us have a mutual moral obligation to smash that mug. Smash it and see how zany they are then. See how happy and calm they are then. I'm just suggesting it.
Let's go back to 1870. And let me give you a hand. Is it A, a vessel for drinking beer from, B, someone who can't stop grinning, C, someone who laughs as they rob you, a giggle mug?
Yeah, I think a mug is a face. I'm going to go B. Although I like C, but I'm going B.
You're right to go B. It is indeed someone with a constantly smiling face. Always a pleasure to look out at the Wordaholics audience and see a row upon row of giggle mugs. Everywhere I go, I am always surrounded by smiling faces. Well, technically, a grimace is a smile. Susie Dent, one for you. What is Jeremiah mongering? Jeremiah mongering.
Well, Jeremiah was the weeping prophet. He was a bit of a doom merchant, a bit like his namesake Jeremiah Kyle. So is it going around weeping? Mongering, though? Is it selling sad stories?
Can I tell you, I'm going to give you the points, and I'm not going to even offer you alternatives, because you've really got it right. It is somebody who is constantly and pointlessly moaning and complaining, which I think is what you were saying, a Jeremiah mongerer. That's exactly what it is. You get full marks and a bonus, because I didn't have to give you the options. Well done. It's an awful, constant, needless lamentation. After the prophet Jeremiah, the weeping prophet, who foretold the destruction of Jerusalem, the subjugation of its people, and who was generally regarded as a bit of a downer at parties. Jeremiah, interestingly, is considered a prophet by Christianity, by Judaism, and by Islam. And still he's not happy. There's no pleasing some people. Helen, what do you suppose is meant by the expression back row hopper?
When is this from again? This is the 19th
This is from
century.
1870s, when the dictionary was published.
1870s. Oh, because I was going to say somebody who, I think of back rows, I think of, say, the back row of a cinema, which is where all the action happens. And maybe somebody who is employed to nimbly, maybe not in the 1870s actually, so maybe in a Magic Lantern theatre or a general theatre, somebody who's employed to nimbly vaunt across the seats if anything untoward is happening in the back row and put a stop to it being actioned in some way.
A back row hopper is either a surprisingly affordable prostitute, B, someone who sneaks into funerals even if they don't know the deceased, or C, a persistent, scrounging drunk, a back row hopper.
I'm going to go for C.
And you're right to go for C.
Oh.
You get the marks. It is C. It's an old theatrical term which describes someone who wanders around the back of a tavern pretending to look for someone, but is secretly hoping to persuade a stranger to buy them a drink. A back row hopper. Actors, they haven't changed. And finally, Josh Widdicombe, we come to you. What would you be doing if you were robbing the barber? Robbing the barber.
See, I mean, there's an obvious answer that must be wrong, which... No, wait, not robbing the barber, no, but like, cutting your own hair would be robbing the barber, wouldn't it?
Well, I'll give you the three alternatives, and you can see which one you want to plump for. Is it A, robbing the barber, selling knockoff prophylactics? B, refusing to get your hair cut? Or C, making cheap wigs?
I'm going to show faith in my original decision, because this is radio and they didn't see you flinch. I'll show faith. B.
Correct. B it is. Well done. You get the points for that, Josh. It is B. A gentleman who wore his hair long was robbing the barber. OK, that marks the end of this week's Semantic Silliness, and looking at the final scores, we can see that in second place, but only just, are Helen and Susie, which means that this week's winners are Natalie and Josh. A signed picture of Charlie Chaplin's face to our winners, and a picture of Chaplin's arse for our losers. Winners, before we go, could you describe your Wordaholics experience in one word, Natalie?
I can give you two words, but they're Latin, so it doesn't count, which would be, I guess, reportamus victoriam. We bring back victory! Yay! 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 But with Latin.
That's it from this week's Wordaholics. Will you please thank once again all our wonderful guests, Natalie Haynes, Josh Widdicombe, Susie Dent, and Helen Keane. Until next time, goodbye. You've been listening to Wordaholics, read by me, Gyles Brandreth. It's written by John